ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of the Automated Millionaire video/podcast. Hi, I'm Mikhail Pitsner, and I help small and medium-sized businesses, and I help the business owners and their teams make more money out of their business without working harder. In fact, it'll make a system flow easier and more smoothly. It'll enable the business owner to, even if so desired, become an absentee business owner and yet still know what to look for and how to lead the employees in such a way that they will create the results desired for you in your business. I do all of this by implementation of a unique business system that I call the Automated Millionaire Business System. You can avail yourself to a training where I map out what that system looks like to some degree, and you can avail to that on my website, theautomatedmillionaire.com. Just look for the tab that says free training or no cost training. Right now, at least, that free training shows the me mapping out that exact system. In these podcasts and videocasts and so on, we are in our current second series. Our first series was all about what made it, what were the secrets behind the success? What was it that was enabling me as a business consultant, or as I called it, a business turnaround agent, to be able to come into a company that I knew very little about, and maybe even a company operating in an industry in which I had no prior information or no prior experience working in, and yet was able to help the business owners and their team to turn that business around from being really in a struggling position, maybe even like very close to a bankruptcy situation, and within just a few weeks or maybe just a couple of months, be able to put that business back on the path of prosperity and be able to find cash every single day in that business, more cash than they had been able to, the business owners and their teams and so had been able to over the last few years. So I mapped out, or I talked about some of those secrets that are also in my business system. It's really the pivotal points that I say, well, those are the, if I had to highlight certain areas of the system, that those are the key elements that kind of help me make it so successful. This system, by the way, the framework of it, I have learned from a lot of esteemed colleagues and so on. So it's not all of my own invention, but it definitely has my perspective, my experience and so on. And I tweaked it and optimized it for two outcomes in particular. Outcome number one is I want to be able to help all my clients to find more cash, to make more cash. So whatever they are endeavoring in their business, that they'll end up making more cash. And two is I want that to be done, or them to be able to do so with speed. So in other words, it's fine to make something that's optimized. It's fine to make something that's like a textbook correct procedure. But if it's too academical, if it's too much because it's like a glorified system and so on, then honestly, I feel like it loses a lot of value, at least for all the smaller and medium-sized businesses. If you're large corporations, by all means, you may have millions in your bank account and so on. And so now you can kind of go in and say, okay, well, let me get the glorified system. Let me get a big consulting group to come in with 10, 15 colleagues and spend 6 months with us and kind of like map all of that out. But for small and medium-sized business owners, typically speaking, we don't have that kind of money just laying around for such purposes. And typically speaking, what we are in need of is instant improvement of our cash flow. To a large degree, a lot of business owners, whether it's a small business or maybe even medium-sized business, we had some success probably during the time of our success, a success career or a business career. But right now we may be struggling, and for whatever reason, we may be struggling. Maybe COVID has really put a nail in our coffin kind of thing, or maybe it's something else. But for whatever reason, we don't have excess amount of cash. We need that cash to come in. Now, why am I so focused on cash? Why am I so focused on money, making more money and so on? They say money isn't important, and I might just be blunt straight away and say they're lying. Cash is super critical. Cash is super important. And we know that for as soon as we don't have money, and as soon as we don't have cash, we run into all sorts of problems and certainly all sorts of stresses. We not only get it in our business life where vendors keep calling and the banks keep calling, creditors keep calling and so on, and we have less and less cash and we have less and less business to make sure it's all going around. Or we may have the business, but that business may require that, hey, we fix the machine that's broken, but we don't have the cash to fix the machine. So as soon as we don't have cash, we certainly feel all the heaviness of the obligations and the duties and time frames that are getting shorter and shorter, that we have to meet these obligations, and we are feeling we kind of left in a position where we are really struggling meeting these obligations. And in our private life, what also happens is that, soon enough, we can't take the vacation, we have to work extra, we're more stressed, we're shorter in our communication at home and so on. And maybe even it spills into that, hey, as a business owner, we are taking less and less money home. And soon enough, our spouse may be nagging us for what's going on, and are we even safe? And what about the children? What about the school? What about the house? What about the insurance? What about the medical bills? All of these things. So cash is super critical. It's super important, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It is. Now, is it what makes us happy? No, but it certainly, can expedite us, towards a position where we certainly are not happy at all. So that's my focus. My focus is to bring to you something that you can truly take and say, okay, that I can implement in my business, and I can turn more money, and I can do so with ease and so with speed and so on, and I can get a better result. So the business system I have that has all of those elements, and the first series, like I said, to kind of come full circle, was all about, what are the pivotal points of that secret that makes me successful when the business owners and their teams in multitude of businesses, they have not been able to. In this current series, our second series, which we are about to kind of conclude for this round at least, we are looking at the mistakes that business owners make. And the reason I'm highlighting the mistakes is that I believe truly that we can learn a lot of things from mistakes. They usually say that success is a poor teacher, whereas failure is really the greatest teacher of all, especially if we can take to us the mindset of making it a lesson, taking the poor experience that we might have as a failure in some point or several points, or in large capacity of our business that may not be functioning and so on. And we can learn from that mistake, learn from that failure, learn what it is. Now we are becoming a better business person. Same thing for our personal lives. If we learn from the mistakes rather than just take it as a failure and kind of like hang our heads. So we want to take it as a learning experience, and that's why I'm highlighting it. I'm also highlighting it because typically speaking, when we talk about mistakes, and for sure here in sense of business, it usually costs us a lot of money. Sometimes less, sometimes a lot of money. I have made a lot of the mistakes that we have gone through already myself, and I can, unfortunately, I'll probably have to admit that I'll probably continue making some mistakes over the time. But what I like to do is actually learn from a lot of other people who have gone before me, so I don't need to make the same mistakes they did, pay the same price they did, but can learn from their mistakes and their experience and their expertise. And that's why, like I said in other episodes, I really value studying for the purpose of myself becoming a better person, becoming a better business person, and so on, so I can get better results. I suggest, of course, that you do the same. Now, in this particular episode, what we'll be looking at is one more of these mistakes that we were talking about. And I want to talk about vision. We mentioned it briefly in some other episode previously, but I believe vision is super important. When I have made a lot of these episodes and so on, you may be focused on, well, it's all about money and so on. But and it isn't. But in business, at the end of the day, our results and our monetary results is very much the scorekeeper for how well are we doing in our business, how well is our business running. Ultimately speaking, that may not be what's really driving us to run the business. It may be a multitude of factors. But for a lot of us, what really is the key is that we actually have a vision for what we want to accomplish in the world. Maybe we have a grand vision of helping, the poor and destitute, helping homeless. Maybe we want to, further education in third world countries or something. So we want to generate some sort of bigger capacity, something maybe larger than life, something maybe way larger than ourselves. And our vehicle really is to get the resources and get something that we can actually go and spend the time doing so, or go and spend the funds doing so. Vehicle often is our business. For me, a lot of the striving factor had a lot to do with the feeling of independence, the feeling of freedom. And yes, I admit, I would rather, work maybe 80 hours a week for myself than have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else, where I don't have the connection to a vision, where I don't have a connection to, well, what is this all for? If it's just a paycheck, well, I may need the paycheck, but how inspired am I really going to be? So that brings us a little bit back to this vision, because as business owners with employees, we really need to make sure that we can inspire our employees. So if you have a grand vision for why you're carrying out the business, maybe it's to further the good word of the Lord, word of the word of God. Maybe it's to, like I said, maybe it's build hospitals, either at home or third world countries. Maybe it's to build schools, or maybe help the destitute or the homeless, or whatever it is. Maybe you have a grand cause or something, or maybe you have something else that I have not mentioned at all, but it's something that actually is a grand vision, not just for yourself, but something probably bigger than just yourself, because truly I believe that most of us, when we have a vision, it is bigger than ourselves. That is what is driving us. It's not really ourselves. Yes, we like the fancy car. Yes, we like the nice house. Yes, we like the big paycheck. Yes, we like the nice watch. Yes, we like to be able to, show off maybe sometimes, and have nice dinners and nice vacations and so on. But at the end of the day, we probably want something more than that. I mean, one of my big driving factors for sure are my kids. So I have two relatively small kids. They are 9 and 10 years old right now, and I want to be able to do more for them and be more for them. And at the end of the day, yes, I spend a lot of time. I play with them and I talk with them and so on. We do things together and so on. But at the end of the time, a limiting factor can easily become the money. Like with more money, with a business that's flowing, and we have a good system in place, now we can take off. We can go to the Bahamas and go to Atlantis and have a vacation time or so, or we can go to Europe, or whatever it is that we desire. But with limiting resources, it's difficult to reach. When we're talking about this vision, what I really would like you to think about, and this is the message of this episode, is for you to really get clear on that vision. And then I want you to really get clear on why is this important to you, because it's really the why that drives us a lot of the times. It's a reason that's like we find why we keep going when everybody else gives up. Okay, so that's message number one, is like find a vision, find the why. And they usually say the bigger the why, the bigger the reason, the bigger the drive, the bigger the resources you're going to dig out of yourselves. Now, the second part of this equation is also that if you have a good vision, I'd really like you to communicate that well throughout your organization. I believe that when you do so, maybe you can actually rally the troops, meaning the employees and everybody around them. You can rally them to back you up on this vision. Maybe it is for something greater good, maybe it's something for the local community, maybe it's something for a grander scheme outside of the community. And so if you can rally up and then get them on board with it, not only will they feel more accomplished and more happy actually, because they're part of a greater good, rather than just, okay, I'm meeting a job just to get my paycheck. So all of a sudden you might actually inspire them to be a happier person in what they're performing. And with a happier employee, you're probably also gonna get a happier result. So anyways, I want to wrap this up. I hope this was a serving you. I hope that this might inspire to really dig in. Maybe you have a great vision already, but maybe you lack to communicate that well into the organization. Maybe you don't actually have a good vision. Maybe you need to think, why are you doing all of this? Because we put in a lot of blood, sweat and tears, and sometimes we could actually get a job that would pay us better and be less hours and have for sure less obligations and less debts and less worries that we would carry with us home at the end of the business day. And so I like you to be really clear about it. And then maybe also there's where you'll find your commitment to do better. Because I believe we can all do better, both in business and in our persons and so on. But it's like without really diving into and plugging into that commitment, we're not doing what's necessary. And soon enough, we kind of stay in the treadmill, in the hamster mill of getting the same results over and over and over, and not really getting the results that we need. And therefore, if we're in a struggling position, we'll stay there. So I think this is really, really key. I hope you can, draw out all the gold nuggets that I think that I brought you here. I think if you get very clear on why you're doing it, if you get very clear on your commitment to it, now you'll do what it takes. And so sometimes that is, well, maybe, hey, Nate, maybe you need to get an expert to help you. And, maybe you'll short circuit, not short circuit, maybe you'll fast forward, leap forward in your results because you had an expert help. Maybe it is, well, hey, you just need a program that helps you. Maybe you need a system that helps you. Maybe you need an outside perspective. Of course, I offer, our services, our programs and so on, but if not me, then find somebody else. I believe truly that if I had a lot of the systems that I have today, if I had a lot of that insight or that mentorship that I now can offer other people, if I had that early in my days, my traction towards success would have been so much faster. And I did even very well. I can't complain. But what if I had done it so much faster, so much easier, and so much that I would have a much grander result, about 10 times as big, or maybe 50 times as big, and maybe even 100 times as big. Well, imagine what I could have accomplished. Instead, I didn't have the systems, and there were certain parts of the equation that I also totally lacked that I had to subsequently pay dearly with experience. I hope to help you to to leap forward. Whether you just use my podcast or videocast and so on, or my free information, or whether you eventually become a client and so on. I hope that I might help you in some small way, or perhaps even in large way, help you to fast forward your results, but also to such a level that you'll stay with the high level results and you actually make life easier. So you can actually also enjoy some of the parts of life that you always wanted, but kind of always was hindered to. I hope that you will give me a hit on the like button. I hope that you'll subscribe to the podcast so I can give you more value coming up. And I hope that maybe you'll share this podcast or this channel with a friend or some business colleague that that, hey, this might serve them well. This was Michael Pitzner, also known as the Automated Millionaire. And I hope to see you in my future episodes. And by all means, go and check out that free training that I have for you. There might also be some free resources that I have for you on my website, theautomatedmillionaire.com. It's Michael Pitzner signing off for today. Thank you.